that are beyond the grasp of young children, that I would make curricular adaptations to the book prior to using it. And one of the curricular adaptations I might make would be perhaps to rewrite the story and cover the words, or just paint over the words and use it as a wordless book. This would really be a powerful wordless book because of the wonderful illustrations and the wonderful teachings that can be done, some of the lessons that can be drawn from these pictures to teach to young children. Very often we try to hunt for good pictures to teach different concepts. So this book really lends itself to that. Now, whenever I'm using a book for instructional purposes, I read the book first to myself just to get acquainted with it. Then I read it with a new set of eyes to see what might be problematic for young readers, to see what I need to pre-teach prior to even reading the book, and while reading the book, what skills I could incorporate in that particular book. So one of the things that I would want to do, because one of the things that I noticed is that the illustrator reminds us that there are many types of benches. And I know with young children, especially with English language learners, they might not know what a bench is, or they might think that a bench is something we can only see at the park. So I would scaffold away from the book the very first day, and I would have an essential question for us to consider: what is a bench? And if I don't get any responses or limited responses, I would show this picture and say, do we know what this is? Where is it? It's at the park. What do we call it? If they say a bench, what makes it a bench? And I would just record the responses while giving credit to the children who are contributing. Then I would present this and say, what is this? It's also a bench. What makes it a bench? And then just write the responses as they are being given. And then I would just go over the different responses and see if there's any commonalities. Are the children saying, or do all the definitions point to benches being outdoors only at the park? Benches, are the children aware that a bench can be made of different things: metal, wood, cement, stone, and so forth, logs, and so forth. And I would then introduce these pictures and would point to this bench and say, what's that? What is it made of? Where would we see this bench? Would we find this bench at the park? Oh, what about this bench? What is it made of? Where might we see this bench? And so on. And I would go over the other benches as well. Now, after looking at each of these and discussing these, we would go back to the definitions that were previously given, and we would call on so and so. You said that a bench is something we find at the park. Have you changed your mind about this? What are you thinking now? Or we can also find a bench in our yard, at home, inside the house, and so forth. And so do you want to change your answer? And if the child says no, and we might, of course, pursue that and say, well, is your answer correct based on what all the pictures we saw? You said a bench can only be found at the park, but here we're seeing a bench that looks like it would only be found inside a house. And then, okay, so a bench, what makes a bench is not that it it can only be found at a park. What makes a bench is that it's a long seat that more than one person can sit on, and so forth. So then we would ask the child, what do you want to add to this? And then go and look at the other responses and see what can be added. And then point out and ask the children, why were we adding things to what we already said? We thought we knew what a bench is, so why are we adding to our definition? And then they will see, oh, we saw pictures, we talked about it, we heard from each other, and we decided, maybe we weren't so right about what we thought about a bench. So you can then bring up the hard concept of revising one's thinking. Boys and girls, good readers revise their thinking as they encounter new information. So as you saw some new information about benches, you changed your mind about what is a bench. And that's what good readers do. And this wouldn't be like a one-shot lesson. This is a concept that would have to be revisited. It takes about a month or two before readers incorporate a new strategy or speak of it as incorporate it as their own strategy. So that's just would be an introduction. And then later on, as other books are read, we thought one thing about this, and now we're changing our mind because we read this, or the character said this, or the character did this. It's the same thing about benches. When we get new information, we change our minds. And think of it this way. Now when you hear the word bench, instead of seeing a wooden seat at a park or a stone seat at the park, we have many mind pictures that come up when we hear that word. So our minds have changed about the concept, about the word bench, and so forth. So then that's revising one's thinking. Again, it's just an introduction. It would have to be revisited almost daily and through different opportunities, and through think aloud about how you as an adult change your mind as you encounter new information, how you revise your thinking, and how this helps you to understand better if you revise your thinking as new information is presented.